Well, good morning, everyone. John McEwen here with the New Jersey Theater Alliance. Happy New Year to you all. And thank you so much for joining us for our Access Thursday Roundtable, the first of 2026. Today's focus, I'm really looking forward to our discussion about accessibility and dance. This is the first time that we're actually having a very specific conversation around access and dance. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I'm the executive director of the New Jersey Theater Alliance. To give you a brief visual description, I'm a cis white male with mustache and goatee, brown and silver hair parted on the side, glasses with clear eye frames and bright blue leg frames. And I have a blurred background, and I'm coming to you actually from the Parsippany Hilton in Parsippany. I have a meeting following this call, and land of the Lenni Lenape. So delighted to be with you. I'm also wearing, I'm sorry, a blue and white checkered shirt, button-down shirt with a blue sports coat. And I'm going to say a good morning to Kat. Good morning, Kat.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kat Lilly. I'm the Access Coordinator with the New Jersey Theater Alliance. I am a white female in my early 40s. I have shoulder-length brown hair that's pulled halfway back. I'm wearing slightly cat-eye framed glasses that are purple and blue. And today I'm wearing a long sleeve black sweater with pink snowflakes on it. I have a blurred background, and I'm coming to you from Medford, New Jersey, land of the Lenni Lenape. And I do want to remind everyone that as we are unmuting and speaking, if you will please identify yourself just so that everybody knows who is speaking when you're speaking. Thank you.
Thanks, Kat. And also, we ask you please drop any comments and thoughts into the chat as we have our discussion today. Kat does a great job of checking that and will periodically pause to look into the chat box. And delighted to have three colleagues with us this morning to join us in today's conversation. So I'm going to ask them each to introduce themselves and give a brief visual description. So I want to say a good morning to Kayla. Good morning, Kayla.
This is Kayla speaking. Good morning, everyone. Grateful to be here. I don't know if my description will be brief because sometimes I have reservations about even sharing visual descriptions. Uh, the reservation, sometimes the questions I ask myself are, who are they for? Um, and whoever they are for, do we ask them what they want to know? And then again, at the same time, it gives an opportunity when you don't know to feel uh, to make choices about what's important to you
Mhm.
to share. So I guess for now, what's important today in this particular moment at 10:37 a.m. Eastern Time is that I am a dark-skinned Black woman with chin length locks. I am wearing red glasses that are newish. I got an astrology reading last year on my birthday, and the astrologer told me that I need to wear red. It will activate my creativity. So I went to Warby Parker immediately
Mm.
and found red glasses. I'm wearing a faded blue shirt because I keep washing it in the wash. And there are my sports bra straps that are peeking out because I did a workout before this. And this is a really good she-fit bra that is really
Mhm.
supportive. So if you're looking for a good supportive bra for workouts, she-fit is the site. Uh, yeah, I think
Great.
I feel checked in.
Great. Thanks, Kayla. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And good morning, Ben.
Hi, hello everyone. Ben speaking. I use he and they pronouns. I am the director of production at Woolly Mammoth Theater Company and the producing director of Extreme Lengths Productions. I'm a white Jewish mannish person with purple hair, glasses, and a black shirt. calling in from the dressing room at Woolly Mammoth, which is in Washington, D.C., the land of the Piscataway people.
Great. Thanks for being with us today. And good morning, Mark.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Roxy. I am a Latino male. I'm wearing black glasses. I have black hair, and I am wearing a black sweatshirt. And I am coming to you from Frenchtown, New Jersey, the home, obviously, the Lenni Lenape. And I am excited to be here with you today. I am the executive director of the Roxy Ballet.
Wonderful. And I also just want to send greetings from Lindsay Dandio of the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, who unfortunately is under the weather today and unable to join us, but she did want to say hello to you all and a happy new year to you all. And she looks forward to seeing and being with you all soon. So we wish her well. So we're going to get this morning's conversation started by asking our three guests if they could just define share with us their definition of accessibility. I think that word's tossed around a bit. Everybody views accessibility differently. And in conversations with our guests prior to today's webinar, we thought, let's, create a foundation for our discussion this morning and hear from each of our guests about their personal thoughts and definition around access. So, Ben, I'm going to start with you.
Sure, thank you. Um, so at Woolly Mammoth, we actually lift a definition of access at the beginning of meetings, and the definition that we use is something that a person needs to communicate, learn, or take part in an activity comfortably and effectively. So you might notice that that doesn't name disability, and that we have try to create a culture where everyone's access needs are valid and considered. Your question also made me think about, this politically charged acronym of DEIA or DEI, and about then the difference between access and inclusion, because I think that they often get conflated. And so AI overview tells me that accessibility removes the barriers for specific needs, and inclusivity builds a welcoming environment for all people by addressing diverse contexts that foster belonging. And I think that's just kind of interesting. Like, I like to think of access as a thing for all people, not specific to disability. And this is kind of saying that that's more the way of thinking of inclusion. So just an interesting conversation that I'm having with AI this morning.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that, Ben. Kayla, how about you?
This is Kayla speaking. Access for me in this moment is the conditions that allow people to participate. So, how does one arrive? How does one stay? Like, and then how does one engage in thought?
Mm-hmm. And Mark.
Yes, again, good morning. I'll just keep it brief. Accessibility, really is the opportunity for individuals with disabilities to acquire the same information, to engage the same way, to be part of what it is that we're doing in the same exact way, and really to give the same access that someone that does not live with a disability has. And for us, there are pillars to access, and I'm just citing out of our handbook, which would be physical access, digital access, cognitive access, and social access. I think those are the four, pillars that I think are most important, and so that's how I would define accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
access.
Right. And I think one thing that you mentioned, and I think all of you, which you did not all, because I think so often when people think of access, they go right to physical access, right? And don't necessarily look at accessibility always in the larger scope, and because it does touch upon every element of your operation, uh, internally as well as externally, right? And maybe to think about the physical aspects of it. I know in a lot of conversations and some of the ADA plans that we've reviewed from our dance community, I think just because so many of our dance organizations tour to venues. They don't own their own spaces. So they partner with presenting venues. So I'd love each of you to share a little bit about what your thoughts are as to ensure that there is that partnership, because it's an equal partnership, right, between the programmer and the venue that's presenting the dance programming. So I'd love to have you, each of you, just share some thoughts about that partnership and how to ensure that the dance company and the venue are equally working together with regards to accessibility. So I can just, anybody want to just jump in because the answer, you're just on the edge of your seat to respond. Ben, how about, I see a nice smile come across your face. How about we'll start with you?
Sure. Um, well, I think my immediate response is about thinking about accessibility in a broad sense. So um, it's about creating a culture. Let's talk from the dance company's perspective for a moment. It's about creating a culture within the company of making folks feel comfortable and included. And that should include the staff, the volunteers, the dancers, the audiences, and there's more communities, I'm sure. Um, and some of those things, specifically the audiences, have a lot to do with the venue, and some of them don't have nearly as much to do. Like your administrative staff that's not at the venue, maybe. Um, but I think that maybe I stand behind this statement. What you can do, what you have control over, is your own company and the culture that you create within that company. And then assuming good intent, like we can all share our learning and growth with the people that we partner with. So we would like to hope that the organizations that host us, the venues that host us, are on their own access journeys, creating access for their staff, volunteers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we can learn from each other. That's a pretty abstract response. I think there's also like a very different angle to respond in a very concrete way of like, where are the ramps? Where is the elevator? Uh, how do I seat people who use a cane or a walker? Um, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
leave it.
Ben, I think that's really a good point, is that whatever venue you are partnering with, to really have a good understanding of those access features of the venue. Because very often you might get the phone call from somebody asking you certain questions about where your company is performing. And so you having a really good idea and even doing some kind of an assessment, if you will, before you actually determine to engage with that venue. As Ben said, you want to make sure you're partnering with organizations who have the same uh, value around access. And so I think, again, being able to clearly understand what the features of that venue are. Do they offer listening enhancement devices? Where, as Ben said, where are the ramps, the seating, elevator, restrooms? Because you're welcoming your folks into this space for your programming. And if somebody was to make a complaint, they would name both the venue and the program provider. So it's always important to keep that in mind. Kayla, what are your thoughts about dance companies and strengthening the partnership with their venues partners?
Yeah, this is Kayla. The first thing that came to me was to slow down. Often we are doing things in a hurry, And access takes time, and access is relational and collective. So that's one, time. What are your priorities as a company? Is and I say this not it's not a judgment, but to know what the priority is before you engage with that venue, so you have a better understanding of how you're entering that space. If I'm period, being clear on your own values as a company, what type of access, what is your political, disability politic around disability before you engage. The relationship begins between the company and the presenting body. That has to be clear first. So the ways in which we engage with each other, right? That we have to see each other as human beings, not you're going to help me produce this show, but how are we building relationships with the people so that we can get to a place where we are doing things for our audiences and others. So I think the bigger things are time and building relationships that move beyond transaction, from company to artist. And that's before any art is put on any stage. The art part comes with the choreography of the people, of the presenting bodies first. In thought.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself there. Kayla, that's so I love what you said just in terms of slow down, conversation. That it is more than just getting in there, getting a booking. It's really building that relationship up front. I love that, and being able to really share what your dance company's access policies are, right? To have that communication with
This is
your.
this is this is Kayla. I don't want to
Mhm.
name policy.
Okay.
Politic and policy are different. We're I'm trying to actually move away from policy and being in the body and being into being, right?
Hmm.
Policy is outside. What is the culture that the company is trying to create? So I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure we don't, I'm not talking policy. I'm
Right,
talking
right. No,
people.
good.
I'm
Thank you
talking
for
people.
clarity.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks for the clarity.
Yeah.
Mark, how about you?
Ah, Kayla, I just want to acknowledge you for your brilliance and just listening to you speak and really hearing what you are saying, and including your thoughtful introduction of who you are and how you choose to enter space. And I just want to acknowledge you for that. And I also want to just say that you mentioned the word relationship. And I think that, and a lot of the dance colleagues that I see you guys here on as well, and we've had these discussions in other forums, that one of the things we do at Roxy and one of the things that, I'm really hyper focused on is what is our culture? How are we, uh, who are we for the community, and how are we showing up for the people that we are attempting to service and be a part of, right? So that includes the artists that are inside the organization, that includes the community, that includes people that maybe don't want to come to our show, but want to come and kind of just see what we're doing on Instagram or social media. And so we're always trying to, number one, be creative about how we bring people together. And I think that if we, as a dance organization, um, what's always evolving for us is there's always staff that, or I like to say team, are always moving, and going in and out of the organization. And so the one thing that has to remain for the organization is what is the culture and how do we bring people that are joining the organization into that culture and set those priorities? Because when that doesn't happen, especially in our field, there's so much transition and there's so much um, there's so many outside influences, funding influences, and directional influences that can kind of you can very easily get away from what are you trying to do. And so when we approach our programming, we're thinking about how can we bring everybody into the space together. And I think that approach makes it fun and makes it creative for those of us that are creatives. Yeah. Instead of feeling like we're trying to check a box or build a document that gets put in a drawer and never gets used, or hey, I'm not doing that because I just deal with presenters and that's their responsibility. It's not mine because we're just coming in. Or so I think that for us, we try to look at things um, in that way. And I share that with you because we've been around for 30 years and I've seen so many transitions in the organization and people coming in and out. And how do we keep the core together? And how do we approach schools and presenters and say, hey, this is who we are. Is your space accessible? Can we partner? Can we build some experiences within the framework of our performances that also are accessible to everyone? How do we do that? Right? Those are the things that we think about. I don't want to be long-winded here, but thank you.
Hi, this is Kat. I just want to read a couple of things from the chat. Ben in the chat has said assistive listening devices are required by law, and he provided a helpful link to those requirements. And then Vanessa said, yes, Kayla, fully agree. And then Piper has asked, what about sensory?
So was that for me, directed to me, Kate?
Just in general, just anyone.
So I mean, what specific question about sensory can we discuss? Or
I'm happy to go offline and ask if that's all right.
yeah.
Hi, Piper Hudson. I currently am in Missouri as the Arts and Health Specialist for the Missouri Art Council. The dance foray knowledge that I'm currently working with is one side divided for the Parkinson's and dementia Mark Morris training that I'm putting on for the KC Ballet. So I'm working on creating toolkits that have surveys on understanding creative aging bias and working in different areas like hospice, senior living, memory care, and such. But I've expanded to university students who are neurodivergent and have sensory processing delays. And a lot of the information that we're trying to kind of navigate is understanding those who have hearing differentials, or one of my students has a cochlear degeneration. And so we're trying to work on understanding how rhythmic, tactile integration could be an additional sensory additive for the loss of that audio when she participates. So expanding sensory consideration for artists who have brain and body disconnect is something I'm trying to help for when a environment is too noisy or too bright for a dancer, to be preemptively aware of an overabundance of sensory information that may cause that dancer to not be able to acclimate their nervous system in the environment. So that's one of the things I'm trying to learn is companies who are aware of neurodivergent dancers that have to acclimate their nervous systems a bit more to changing environment sensory informations. Is there any pre-existing toolkit, survey, knowledge, or whatnot for dance? There's lots for theater and there's lots for music, but I've yet to really find a lot of neurodivergent dance information. So that's what specifically I meant by sensory, which I figured I couldn't type into the chat. So thank you for the consideration and time.
Piper, thank you for the question. I I agree. There isn't a lot of information, and much of it, well, there is information, but we have to be actively trying to seek it out. And I think that one place that I have found to be an incredible resource for us is the VSA, the Very Special Arts, and they have an annual convening, and it's just incredible, and there's so many wonderful people to meet and network with, and learn from, and I mean there's just so much. I also would say that, for a smaller dance company, and a dance company that, like, I don't know who's coming to a performance that has a very special requirement that's unique. I also don't know who's going to walk through the door to participate in a program, or when we go into a school, we don't know who's there. Like, we don't know unless they fill out the questionnaire and we get there, and we're able. But the key is that the artist, and the teaching artists, and the volunteers that are working for us. We have trainings for our team to make sure that they are ready. And then in terms of what kind of how can we make the program amazing, we have to really spend time and resources thinking about exactly how that works, so that everybody is a part of it. It's not I just want to underscore to those of my dance colleagues out there that it's really about creativity. It's not, there's no silver bullet. There's no like one way, one fit, disability isn't one fit. There's so much. And if you use your creativity, and the information that's available to us today wasn't even available to us 15 years ago. I mean, 15 years ago, there wasn't AI that can run out a program for you and give you the best practices. And I mean, there's so much wonderful information today that if you're excited about doing the work and it's a part of your organization's mission, that it's all available to us today. We can find that.
Hmm. Just in terms of Piper's question, I didn't know, Kayla or Ben, in your experience, any resources, case studies, things that as it relates to the sensory experience in dance, any ideas, thoughts for Piper?
Can respond. This is Ben. Um, so I agree that there's a lack of research, specifically on, um, is it going to come to me? Um, oh shoot, the term is escaping me. Folks who experience seizures. What is the term that I'm looking for? Um, as soon as I'm off the, not in the hot seat, it'll come to me. Um, but I did, well, epilepsy, but
Well, so
anyway, let me,
Neurodivergent?
no, it'll come in
No?
a second. Um, so I was working with Kinetic Light on doing research for how to specific photosensitivity. Thanks, Sarah Weber Gallo. Um, so yeah, doing research about photosensitivity. There is a ton of research that has happened in film and television about photosensitivity after this wild thing that happened from a Pokemon episode that gave a ton of viewers seizures. And so there's like these programs that you can run film and television through that determine whether or not it could trigger photosensitive response. But this research does not exist for live performance.
Hmm.
And so I was trying to get to the bottom of it a bit with Kinetic Light, and we just found that like it's not out there. And that's a really interesting thing. There's a lot more to sensory
Hmm.
accessibility than photosensitivity, some of which honestly is quite simple. Having a sensory friendly performance, like
Yeah.
it's not that deep. Like we leave the lights, the house lights up at a low level. We provide sensory like fidgets, a quiet space,
Hmm.
beanbag chairs, and we lower the levels of the sound. We eliminate any flashing lights or audience blinders, lights in the audience. And that's what it is. Like not to say that there's not like more research or like depth that can go into creating a sensory friendly performance, but I think there's a lot. I've experienced a lot of fear about like, we don't know how to do this. And I want to encourage us all to let go of perfectionism when it comes to accessibility. Trying is better than not trying. Um, doing the things that I just listed will create access for people who wouldn't otherwise have it, and it might not create access for everyone because it's impossible to create access for everyone.
That part. This is Kayla screaming. That part. I would like to trouble the idea of everyone. And is it truly possible for things to be for everyone? And sometimes we just have to be two wheels down, 10 toes down, 2 feet and a cane down on the choices that we're making. And just make those choices boldly and know when we're making them in thought. It's okay if the work is not in your imagination. It's not accessible for a particular group of people, but not everybody in that particular group of people need the same access. So you actually don't even know if you know. Okay, I got excited. Sorry, Ben, you got me. Yeah. So like troubling the idea of everyone, and then just making firm in your choices that you're making around the communities and the people that you do want to be with. Who do you want uh, to come together? And that being the driver for what it is that you're doing. And knowing that when you're going for that particular target, other people will also benefit. And sometimes, let's be real, sometimes we don't know what we need. Yeah? We don't know
Hmm.
what our access needs are. So sometimes it's just going to take experiencing the thing to be like, oh, yeah, actually, that was really helpful. I did not even know I needed that fidget. That really supported me. All right, now I'm just going to keep going on because I'm excited. So I'm going to end thought there.
I do
Well,
want to, oh, sorry, this
Thank
thank
is
you, Ben.
you.
Thank you, Ben and Kayla. And I just want to just let folks know we did do one of these roundtables, I think last year, perhaps. We've done it a couple of times where we've had a discussion just around sensory performances, a lot of what you shared with us, Ben. So I just want to, it's up on our archives. If you have any interest in that, we'll probably offer it again maybe next year, but just to let folks know there is some information in a previous discussion that we had, I believe, last year. And Kat, I know we have some raised hands here. Yes?
we do have some raised hands. I just want to read out a couple of things from the chat and then we will get to everyone with a raised hand. So there was some discussion in the chat about the LEAD conference. That's the Leadership Exchange in Arts and Disability Conference. That is happening in Philadelphia this year. So if you are able to attend, I highly recommend it. I did include a link in the chat for more information about that. You're also welcome to email me for more info. And then Ben has said, if time permits, I would love to talk more / deeper about policy versus relationship as it pertains to accessibility.
Hmm.
Let's see. Sarah has said, so many dancers are working with post-concussive syndrome leading to extreme photosensitivity. We always collaborate closely with our lighting designer. And then Piper has said that they meet a lot of TBI dancers who, as a result, have sensory processing overloads. Sorry, there's a lot of things coming in suddenly. Um, and then Karen has said synchronous neuronal activity or aura experience, and that's a question mark. So I'm not sure if Karen wanted to explain a little more about that, but we can come back to that in a minute. Karen, if you do, you can just raise your hand and we can talk a little more about that. And then Piper said LEAD operates only under a disability lens, which they're finding Gen Z preference for social / strength-based programming. There's a lot there, so if you need me to reread anything, please let me know.
Great. Thanks, Kat. So I think we had Jeff's hand up, and then we'll go to Don. So, Jeff?
Hi, everybody. This is Jeff Friedman. I'm the director of the Mason Gross School of the Arts Integrated Dance Collaboratory at Rutgers University. Um, I have a specialist, Dr. Natalie Schultz-Kowati, who developed her own, developed literally her own curriculum for a doctoral research uh, situation regarding neuroscience and dance, and she teaches and has been teaching dance for neurodivergent populations at Rutgers for about 3 years now. And I'll just say, for one example, that there is I guess I'll use it's kind of like a tactile board where you can change the order of events. That's one example among many others of allowing autonomy for neurodivergent participants to select the order of events. We also have found that many of our participants have a high preference for music, and they actually try to take over the music curation, which is kind of interesting and fun. Um, and also that the use of props, especially props that engage in stronger effort-based qualities of movement, such as lightness, and we say, for example, scarves, or heaviness like beanbags, can often create an opportunity to expand possibilities for movement choices and movement generation. So Natalie couldn't come today because she's teaching, but I'd be happy to share information about her if you're interested.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. If you could share Natalie's information with us, we'd love to get her more engaged with the Cultural Access Network and also just learn more about her work and her research. And Don Eamon. Hello, Don.
Hello, good morning, everyone. This is Don Eamon. I'm the former ADA coordinator at the New Jersey State Council on the Arts for about 16 years before I retired. um, One of the things I wanted to touch on is something that Mark and Kayla said about the audience. And one thing we've tried to stress over the years is that organizations that are presented at other venues, or if the organization has their own venue in which to present their work, is to work closely with the box office or provide information online to query the person that's buying their ticket to see if they have any special requests. And so if you're a touring company, you need to work closely with your presenter to make sure that the folks at the box office or that information is provided online through ticket sales at the point of sale to capture any information you can of the needs of the ticket buyer so that you can adequately prepare and provide the type of equipment or experience they may need. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Don. And then we have Arlene and then Miss Ruth. Arlene.
Good morning, everybody. Hearing Don speak, it just reminded me that he didn't put his face on. And just to tell everybody who I am, Arlene Romoff, I have been involved with disability access in the arts and other ways a long time, 50 years. I am deaf. I lost my hearing slowly as an adult. And by the time I was totally deaf, there were cochlear implants that were available, which allow the deaf to hear. So 1997, I got my first cochlear implant and my second one, 2008, and all the while participating in arts access from the point of view of people with hearing loss. I was looking forward to this session because I have lived experience, lived meaning, before there were committees and everything, I had to kind of make my way and do what I had to do. And what relates to this is before I had cochlear implants and kind of crappy hearing aids, I had kids that You would want to take them to shows. There were no captioning yet. We hadn't tackled that yet, John. And
Hmm.
this is a really cool bunch, by the way. You're in the right room. Um, okay, so what did I do? We went with my daughter, who was, I think, 12, to Lincoln Center, Nutcracker Suite. It was dance. You really didn't have to hear the music. I knew the music anyway, but there was no deficit because mommy couldn't hear what was going on audially or whatever the sound. Uh, we could definitely appreciate the focus was the dance. So dance was something that people with hearing loss can do. So in a general way, your publicity for your dance programs, you should be a little wise to that because people with various disabilities, they tend to shut out everything. They don't really know what they can enjoy, what may
Hmm.
just don't, because the price of a ticket or whatever. So my message here is there are in New Jersey, we have organizations that communicate with people with hearing loss on a structured level. But let me remind you that your senior population has a lot of hearing loss, okay? And they're not always clued in to caption performances, or maybe they're going with a group that isn't focused on if it's hearing loss accessible. But dance will always be a good option. So, seniors, when we're not talking disabilities, I'm a senior because if you do the math, if I've been active
Hmm.
for 50 years, okay, well, we're not like young anymore, John. But
Right.
we're still here and we're still preaching. So somehow, usually, I always talk about keeping things mainstream. In other words, you're reaching an audience which doesn't know it's being reached. So you might not reach the person that you want to get to, but you may reach their daughter or you may reach their friend that would think, oh, yeah, we could do this together. So that's my message here that, go after your population that generally has hearing loss. So you're talking seniors and you're also talking people who self-identify with hearing loss. So all cochlear implant users don't hear music the same way, but it's okay. But visually, yeah. And I would like to just mention there is a young lady, she's now 12, 13, who was born deaf. She has one cochlear implant. She had some other, she's not verbal. She's not, they can't speak, but she can understand. And her mother established a dance studio in Nutley. I can't recall the name of it, but it's in Nutley. It's a dance studio, dance lessons, and she's running it. Her daughter is involved, and they're always doing presentations. So that would be a nice connection. I'm here to provide information. So when you check off, what are we talking about today? Okay, I flip to, okay, dance stuff. And that's what I have to share with you today.
Right. Thanks, Arlene, so much. And I just want to just amplify, Kayla, thank you for what you just put in the chat with regards to, the whole positioning of access. And Kayla, do you want to, I just thank you for putting that comment in the chat. Do you just want to share that with you? I just think it's so important to call it out.
Yeah, this is Kayla. I'm just being listening to the language that we're using, and language can shape our thinking in our approaches. So when we say things as like a special request, as if there's something already that's dominant, and I would love to live in a world, or I create work and I want to be in spaces where that is already known, my existence. I am allowed to be there because I exist, because I am human. So my need of audio description as a visually impaired person, as a special request, already puts me on the outside of something. right? And then you're saying I belong here, but it's something special to you when it's every day for me. And then we're like, and I understand the necessity to talk about uh, disability in groups. However, as a visually impaired person, my access needs are not going to be the same as Krishna, a visually impaired, a blind friend of mine. So when we talk about things like in groups, I think it's really important for us to also be mindful that even people within these groups are individual people with their own specific needs, desires, and wants. So while we can say, oh, this is research for this group, but it's also about the human being, right? Which is like part of the reason why our education system is not as successful because we're treating people in groups, but when we should be trying to be attentive to the individual amongst the group. So I want us to be to be both and not just look at groups of people, but individuals amongst the group. So we really need to be attentive, which is why the relationship is important. Because if I'm in community and I'm in relationship with you, right, I can know what you need to be specific for you. And for me, that is the highest extension of love and care is when it's me to you and not my assumptions of what it is that I think you need based on my perceptions when I don't have that lived experience in thought.
Thank you, Caleb. And Miss Ruth, your hand's been up for a bit. Good morning, Miss Ruth.
Good morning. What a great conversation today. And agreed, Kayla. I call them my essentials, not so much a special request because I don't consider myself an outlier. I think my needs, special needs, we all have the need to be respected. So it's not really special. It should be part of the integral thinking. And I just want to harken back to Kayla, your observation as you opened about who the descriptions are for, and that's interesting to think about. It's in this case, it's for people like me with vision loss. But I also like hearing about the flourishes people share, such as your red glasses, based on the advice from an astrologer. I'm with you. I'd get those red glasses. At the last roundtable, I was a panelist, and I shared that my aura that day was purple and green. And I think what can be visually detected is nice to know, but the most important thing to me is the energy someone conveys, which leads to the notion of a warm welcome being a form of universal access. And then just on a personal note, as a person with Asperger's, I bristle somewhat at the term fidget because it seems to have an implicit judgment. I use the term touchstone. I have Asperger's and this is what I need, and it makes me feel more calm. But I don't think I should be judged. Everyone gets nervous, you know. In any case, I'm home with COVID, so forgive my scratchy voice. Thank you for this conversation today.
Thank you, Miss Ruth, and feel better. Feel better.
Thank you kindly.
Sure. All right, so Karen and then Heather and then Don. Hello, Karen.
Peace and blessings. You can call me Queen Noor.
Okay.
Peace and blessings. I'm really I'm an international storyteller, but I'm also a line dancer. And I've documented the soul line dance community for the Library of Congress here in the Philadelphia in Jersey and Delaware region. So that's a little background. But I just wanted to really speak about when Kayla wrote that about language, how important language is, and the use of language. And so, and it goes all the way back to the very beginning of this of the webinar where we talked about the word inclusion versus that DEI. So if you use the words that come to inclusion, then what you're eliminating and you're giving erasure to is othering. And that's just beautiful. And the use of the word, universal access, as you were just saying, language is so very important. Like I won't even go into further detail, but that's my point. And it's up to us. We're the people that we've been waiting for in order to make these changes in terms of language. And it should be inclusive with the communities in terms of changing that language and what should it sound like. Right. So we're not the gatekeepers of it. But we need to get the communities involved to say, so what are the words that should be appropriate? because the language has been long standing and it needs to change. Thank you.
So important about the engagement and being in community with those we're working with, and listening, because it's constantly evolving, right? And to listen and engage with our community. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then Heather, and then I notice, I think, Kat, there's been some questions about maybe going back to kind of hearing from our guests about some policy, or not necessarily policies, but just
Policy versus.
policies, right?
Mhm, right.
And then also we've talked a little bit about some services for audiences. What can the dance field do in terms of programmatic access? I know that that's come up a bit. So we're going to start with Heather, and then we're going to address a couple of those particular items with our guests today. So good morning, Heather.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Heather Williams, and I'm the director of the Arts Access Program. And the people that I serve are adults with developmental disabilities, and the majority of them are wheelchair users. So I wanted to touch on just the idea of building relationships as a presenter. And a lot of times we do go into the community, and as I build relationships with the people who present us, I just wanted to reiterate how important it is to be so clear and communicative about the things that the people that are presenting their work need as a means to be successful. So and the other thing is to avoid assuming that people know what you need, because a lot of times people will think, well, they'll point out the ramps, which are so wonderful, and they'll point out, the accessible seating, but it's my job to do site visits to say, well, can they get in the dressing room? And what does that look like? And how wide are the doors? Will their wheelchair fit around the corner to even get to the dressing room? And what does the backstage area look like? And can they go from, one side of the stage to the other with clear egress? So it's just, if you have a rider, make sure that that information is in your touring rider. And if not, just make sure that you're so very clear about what you need to make your company successful.
Thank you, Heather, for pointing out the importance of whether it's a tour rider, part of the contract with your venue, but that there is a conversation, right, with your venues, and some clear understanding. I think, as our guests shared, bringing in your value into the space of your venue partner, because I think so often you just book the event, but sometimes those conversations aren't really taking place prior to you forming that relationship, right? So maybe we could just talk a little bit about again, just a thought about policy. Any tips our guests have in terms of what conversations should be had prior to you forming a formal partnership with a venue, and maybe touching a little bit upon, in terms of programming, what are some accessible? I think people are familiar with audio description, but what are some things that dance companies can think about in terms of making their programming accessible? So maybe just starting on the policy, and for a few minutes on the policies and tips around the venue partnership.
I, j- I do want to say that I think Ben wanted to discuss a little bit like the policy versus relationship aspect a little more and to explore some of that as well.
Okay, great. Why don't we start there with Ben's comment?
Yeah,
Anybody
thanks.
want to comment?
This is
Yeah.
Ben. I can chime in. I just thought that there was like a lot of meat behind that moment that we had towards the beginning of this conversation about what policy means to you, Kayla, and your response to that. And there's a lot of policy makers here on this call. Someone who mentioned that they were connected to the ADA, but also anyone who runs a dance company is making policies for that company. So how do we really um, start from this place of relationship based, maintain this place of relationships based and based interactions with folks, but then also like the Americans with Disabilities Act is a policy that policymakers fought for to then take, hopefully, I wasn't there, to take the needs of individuals and to create some universal policies. So just curious to get a little deeper there, Kayla, if you wouldn't mind, if you're interested in that.
Yeah, this is Kayla. Oftentimes, policies do not encourage or uplift behavior. And I was making the argument to be clear that policy and behavior should be, or should be, should is complicated. I don't want to use that word. But policy and choices and values are hopefully moving in alignment with each other. And when it's usually talked about broadly, policy is somewhere outside, and behavior is somewhere different. And I wanted to make sure that I'm talking about an alignment in thought.
Thank you, Kayla. Then again, that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, thank you, Kayla, for that. And Mark, anything you wanted to add around that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would just say also to add to add on to and echo everything that was just said by Kayla is that core values, particularly in dance organizations, play a big role. Like if you're an artistic director, you certainly most of the cases there's a strong vision there, and the question becomes what are your core values and how are you bringing that, how are you bringing that into spaces? How do you show up? How do your dancers show up? And also the other thing that I uh, have identified as one of the major issues, especially for dance organizations, is just like where do we start? Where a lot like if you're there's two groups here that we're really talking about. There's an established uh, entity, right, or organization, uh, or program, and then there's people that are just beginning. They're just starting out. They're just emerging into finding their own artistic voices and trying to navigate. Um, how do I function in this world as an artist? And where is the information that we can get to our young artists early on so that by the time they become mid-career, they've they've amassed enough information and they've benefited the public in a way, everybody, right? So that for me, core values play an important role because you if it's not part of your core value system or it's not a priority to you, and it's in a handbook or it's a policy, who's to say it's even getting done? Or it's just not part of whatever that one person who has maybe more control over an organization uh has. And I think that's a real issue in serving people, all people.
Thank you, Mark. Any comments? Because I would like to talk a little bit about some programming for the dance world to think about making the dance programming itself accessible. But I just wanted to check in with Kat just to see any recent comments in the chat.
Yes, we do. Actually, we have a question from Gary. So it says, since many of our teaching artists come in and present their art, what ongoing training models are available to sensitize the teaching artists' understanding of the needs of all participants in the program, as well as fellow colleagues who come to the dance company as they work together as a team?
Any of our guests want to chime in there about teaching artists?
May I ask you to repeat the question?
Yes. Since many of our teaching artists come in and present their art, What ongoing training models are available to sensitize the teaching artist's understanding of the needs of all participants in the program, as well as fellow colleagues who come to the dance company as they work together as a team?
So I would just suggest uh, that anyone in a position of creating programs consider that if there isn't a curriculum or an SOP or a standard operating way of operating, some way you can document what's happening and what you're doing, and also a place to reflect on what's not working, then it's very, very difficult to train artists or prepare artists or interest artists, get artists interested in working in a more expanded way. So I think it comes down to and again, VSA for me has been a really wonderful home, a place for me to go back. I've been going to VSA for almost 20 years now, and it's the programs. I've met some amazing artists. I've sat in some very, very interesting spaces and heard really, really innovative ways, and some ways that I could never participate in, but I know that they exist. And I think it's important to be in those spaces, and even like a space like this, or Dance New Jersey has an accessibility cohort, and I just think it's really important to be interested.
Yeah. And Ben, thank you for dropping in some of those. I did some work with Access Dance, and so that's a wonderful suggestion. Kat, did you want to read out a couple of Ben's suggestions?
Yes, hold on one second. So in the chat, Ben has given us a website link for Access Dance Company that has a teacher training program, and also Sins Invalid also offers a great disability justice training, more broadly, not specific to teaching dance.
And I will also say Young Audiences of New Jersey and Eastern Pennsylvania, they do some artist training around accessibility. So
And
that's
Karen,
another resource.
and Karen, sorry, this is Kat. Karen did bring up that NJ State Council for the Arts has training programs for teaching artists as well as other organizations.
This is Kayla.
Mm-hmm.
One thing teaching artists and whoever else is involved in programming is to diversify their friend group. Who are your people? I think it's easier to, what are the training modules that are outside? How can I, outside of myself? I am proposing for you to flip it. How many disabled people are your friends, are your colleagues? Do you go to dinner with them? Do you go to their houses? How are you in community in your day to day? That's where you're going to get your knowledge, your information to go into the classroom or to do whatever it is that you're doing with various, and this goes for any community, right? That's not in relationship to your own. Yeah. So I would be asking the teaching artists, who are their people? Do they just hang around people that look like them, that talk like them, in their same culture? That's where the learning, the real education happens in our everyday lives, is what I'm saying, not in a professional development session or not necessarily in a training program for 3 weeks where you get to then separate yourself from the realities of the people that you are in relationship with day to day. I'm talking about lifelong, long game, learning, unlearning, becoming, and unbecoming in relationship with people for the rest of our lives, not just in the time in which we're being with people who are in places of difference from us. End thought.
This is Ben. Can I build off of that? And just say that I think that this is why really deepening hiring practices is so important. I um, work with in a very, very diverse group of folks at Woolly Mammoth. And that means that I get to hang out with these people all day, with people that are coming from all different perspectives all day. And so then I have a natural like community of uh of folks to learn and grow with. So I think I suspect that like when we say, accessibility, it's not just about the audiences, it can be about your staff. That this is sort of a maybe complex statement within the dance world that has so much internalized ableism. Um, yeah, and that.
Miss Ruth.
Wow, thank you. Kayla and men. I've been saying amen a lot. I'm muted, you can't hear me, but thank you for that. It's holistic, it's personal and universal. So develop an open door policy and just let people in. My comment before that was actually going to be about audio description for dance, which can be tricky. I remember a performance of Fiddler on the Roof, and the audio describer somehow found a way to give detailed descriptions of all the twirls and the kicks and the people connecting arms and dancing. So I'm wondering if your organizations have audio description for dance performances, and is there some sort of special training to describe dance?
So I would just like to say that I actually took an audio sorry, this is Kat. I took a class with Krishna Washburn, who's based out of New York with Darkroom Ballet. And she is fabulous. She teaches an audio description class specifically for dance because it's very different, I think, than to me, it was different than describing for theater and describing the movements of the body and things of that nature. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, what was your name again, Kat? I'm sorry, Krishna
Krishna Washburn.
Washburn. Okay, very good.
Mhm.
And I think you and I, Kat, had discussed potentially having my blind yoga instructor come on to describe the way
Fish, yes.
she tells us how to do moves. She says, take your hand and polish your halo over your head, like very detailed. You don't need to see it. You just are given these detailed instructions. So I'm assuming the training for dance audio description will be similar. Thank you very much.
Then Mark,
Oh,
Kayla,
sorry. I think
oh, I'm
Kayla had.
sorry.
I'm so sorry.
This is
Any,
Kayla. I just want to say I am visually impaired and I am a dancer and choreographer. All my performances are made accessible through audio description. It is open source audio description, so regardless if you're sighted or not, you're going to have access to the audio description. That's just how I create. Seconding Krishna Washburn, a dear friend. And I think the training is about more about doing it than doing it
Mhm.
a particular way and noticing where your preferences are because we are in a uh, for me my perspective in a lucky space that audio description has not been like heavily codified and capitalized on where we get to be creative and expansive in the ways in which we approach it. So I would say the training will be like to begin in thought.
I do just want to say one thing. Somebody had asked about how to enlarge the Zoom chat. If you're on Windows, if you do Control Plus, if you're on Mac, if you do Command Plus, it will enlarge your chat so you can see the better.
Vanessa?
Hello, my name is Vanessa Hernandez Cruz. Pronouns she, her, ella. I am a disabled dance artist and disability justice activist. Yeah, I just really want to uplift Kayla's thoughts about community and relationship building. I think Sense and Valid is an incredible resource to really understand uh, disability and all the intersections, because I do find even though um, we're seeing an increase of disabled artistry. I also feel like we need to see more multi-marginalized artists at the intersection of Black, Indigenous, people of color, queer, trans um, folks in these spaces. And so I really would love to see more organizations hire multi-marginalized uh, consultants from neurodivergence to physical access, things like that, because that will only enrich your work and bring more people to your performances, to your venues. Yeah, I really would love to see more spaces that have multi-marginalized leadership and artists in general. Yeah, so I just really wanted to uplift that and thought.
Thank you. Kat, I saw some other comments and suggestions in the chat.
Yes, hold on one
And
moment.
Kat, I just have to step away for one moment. I'll be right back with you all.
Okay, so Jeff pointed out that Gravity Dance in San Francisco Bay Area offers training in audio description, and there is a strong new development from Kinetic Light to create multi-track and subjective content in audio description. And then Ben suggested Audio Description Associates, Esther Geiger. They're dance audio description expert based in the DC area, and he did provide the link for that. All of these resources and things that are in the chat, I do download the chats after every Zoom. And so if anybody needs a resource, feel free to reach out. We will put these resources up on the website. We're sort of in the process of redoing some of those resources on the website, so it may not be immediately, but you're always free to reach out and just let me know that you need some resources. And then I did see another raised hand a second ago. Was there someone, was that Vanessa, did you have your hand?
Oh, sorry. I thought I lowered my hand.
Oh,
No,
it's okay. I just saw and then I thought maybe you lowered
appreciate
it.
you. Thank you, though.
So Mark has asked, can Kayla unpack the process for defining the audio description in a I'm sorry, one second. Can Kayla unpack the process for defining the audio description in a creative sense?
This is Kayla. I will do my best. I would say that I use audio description as a beginning place for movement creation, invention, and choreography, so that while I am creating an embodied choreography, simultaneously I am creating the audio description uh, in relationship to what I'm creating in an embodied sense. So what does it look like? It looks like sometimes I will start with words, and then I would move the words, and then that will be in a conversation. Oh, that's not actually, it helps me kind of refine my choreography. Like, oh, that's actually not what I'm trying to get at. It's in a conversation. I can use this to give to other dancers, describe the move. So it's less about like dancers doing what it is that I'm like looking like me, but interpreting the description for which it is that I'm trying to get across. So I mean, it happens in multiple ways, but I'm using audio description, one as a way of creation, using audio descriptions to uplift wholeness and for people to be in their own bodies in the creative experiment of choreography versus the hierarchy of me as the choreographer setting work. I think with it being open source, meaning like you don't have to come to a theater and wear a headset to listen to the audio description, that multiple people benefit. And the description guides for sighted people, guides their sight to where it is that I want them to draw their attention to, because I believe even sighted people, we say that, oh, sighted people see everything. I don't think sighted people do. I think you all still make choices about what it is that you see. You're just not honest about it. So yeah, I think for me, audio description in a creative sense can uh, it can I lost it because I felt some type of way about calling out sighted people. So I lost my thought in the vulnerability of calling out sighted folks. So I'm going to end my thought there.
In the chat, Jeff has said that Rachel, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, Rapens is another visually impaired dance artist who uses creative audio description. And then Mark said, that's so amazing. And thank you to Kayla.
And this is Kayla. I would say I would trouble thinking about language because language to me impacts thinking, right?
Yes.
Language thinking, not creative audio description. I would argue that all description is creative because it's coming from an individual, right? And my creativity is going to come out of the audio description based on my lived experience, right? So my descriptions are going to be shaped by me being a Southern Black woman with natural hair who's a fat dance, right? With being the oldest child, like all those things are going to impact the ways in which I see and the ways in which I describe by nature, making it creative. Okay, in thought.
As I'm listening to this conversation, I'm thinking, and I'm just putting it out there, that we do an audio description training for theater, and we are looking to also provide some training just for those in the visual art space at our galleries and our museums. But I would like to just hear your thoughts about we could explore from next year doing something specifically for our dance community. And so I just want to just put it out there because it's not something that here are we working on. And I just wanted to just hear what thoughts are, interest, and if so, then Kat and we can start to explore and secure funding and so forth for this opportunity for next year. But just wanted to just share that with all of you and see what your thoughts were.
Yes, excuse me for jumping in. This is Sarah from Dance New Jersey. I think our community would really benefit from that. I am a white woman with blue glasses and long blue hair in front of a windowed background with some dance stickers behind me, coming to you from Hoboken, which is surrounded by construction. But I think I was really appreciative, Kayla, of your describing the process of using visual descriptions as both a creative tool and a helping tool for everybody to participate. Because I know I do that just naturally as a creator, but I do think that many of the dance community have struggled with feeling like they are providing really an apt description of the experience of dance, especially if something is up tempo or complex or many things are happening at the same time. Do we use language like, oh my gosh, they're over there, look at them jumping, in a way, in some way like that? Or is that an offensive way to use language? And I do think the just try and start is really important because there are a lot of ways to not do it. Sorry, long moment.
No, thank you, Sarah. Jeff.
Yeah, I'm going to provide some data that may be helpful. I attended a workshop by Esther Geiger and her husband, who are very long-time audio describers for dance at Dance USA a couple of summers ago. And this comes into the question of subjective versus objective. This team tends to, shall I say, privilege the objective description of what is happening. Like somebody moves upstage right, they turn, they gesture to the audience, that sort of movement description. It does not come from a creative place, the way Kayla is describing it. And I would just be careful that there are a variety of approaches. And I've suggested kinetic light as another example of someone who's working specifically from that creative response, and that the subjectivity, which is, and I think we maybe all agree, is that we're all subjects. We're all subjects. There is really no objectivity. That the subjective experience has to be involved, and that the multi-track, which involves creating both vocal description as well as shall we say vocables, which are like laughing or crying or coughing or something, and also music and lyrics to song and poetics and all that. That is the kind of current cutting edge, I think, of what audio description can be.
This is Kayla. I just get excited about audio description. Thank you, Jeff. Sorry, and I won't take up too much space around it. I think even if it's stage right, stage left, arm up, arm down, I think there's more to the audio description than just what it's being said, but also how it's being said, who is saying it, right? So I just think it's all creative, right? Like there, if you're talking to me really quickly, that is a creative choice. You may not be conscious of that choice that you made, but it is one. So I guess I just question, yes, there's definitely many ways to do it. I'm just curious about uh, being clear about what is considered, who decides what is creative and who doesn't. When something is describing like what is literally happening. Like, okay, I don't know. Okay, I got convoluted. I said I wasn't gonna take up more space, and I'm not in thought.
No, I just want to kind of build off that thought too, is even if somebody else is writing an audio description script and you're reading it, you're making a conscious choice about the tone, about how, again, Kayla said, how fast you speak. There are a lot of creative decisions that still go into it, even if somebody else is doing the writing for it. I'm also really passionate about audio descriptions. So.
And we have Miss Ruth.
Yeah, I'm also passionate about audio description, and I agree with that completely. I really prefer that the tone of the describer match the tone, for example, of a performance. I had one describer give this really buoyant performance that matched the play so perfectly, the tone, as opposed to a clinical, just factual recitation. So it really, we could do hours of this. So bring Kayla back, please. We'd love to hear more from her.
This has been such a great conversation. We just have a couple of moments left. I believe, Kat, you're going to be dropping a survey into the chat, yes?
I am in just one moment. I do want to read out just a couple of things from the chat, and then I will do that. It says, is the creative and entertainment value a critical consideration? And are there other considerations that are equally in play?
And is that regarding audio description?
Yes, this is from Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to open up the conversation, kind of go a little deeper into it because for the dance community, there's something that is truly expansive here. That right, Kayla? I mean, obviously you know that because that's why you do it, but I just wonder if, obviously there's a entertainment value, that consideration. So I guess the description can be done that way. It can be purely, um, you know, very structured, maybe in a different way. And I wonder if you could just, share the process and how are you curating that
Yeah, this is
as a performance theater.
yeah, this is Kayla. I still have a lot of questions between what is access and what is accessory. And I think the only ways I can do it is to keep trying it and it's to keep practicing it and like doing it and be like, oh, that was a fail. That was access as accessory. And then yeah. So to answer your question, I don't know. And I'm in a practice of figuring it out by doing it.
Yeah, I love
And
that. I love that.
And in the chat, Ben has said, a thing I've been thinking about for a long time, and I've noticed much less dialogue about, is music description for deaf/hard of hearing folks for use in captions or through ASL. And then, let's see. Oh, Jeff did also mention that there's an MFA and dance graduate program of UC Irvine, whose thesis is all about audio description.
And I will just reiterate what what you had shared earlier about the VSA lead conference. It is coming to Philadelphia, so it's right in our region. The New Jersey Theater Alliance is one of the co-hosts of the gathering, along with Art Reach Philadelphia, and of course, our friends over at the Kennedy Center. So you'll get more information on this. We are working with the Arts Council as well in terms of making sure that we have as many of our New Jersey arts colleagues with us, because if you've never attended, it is a wonderful way to meet your colleagues, to be in rooms, to have these important conversations. So certainly more to come there. And in our last moment together, I just want to ask our guests, Ben, Kayla, and Mark, any last minute thoughts you want to share before we close out today's really wonderful conversation?
This is Kat. I'm just going to take 1 second to say I did launch the poll, and if for some reason that you are unable to fill it out and you want an email or you just want like an email copy, please let me know, and I'm happy to send you a copy of that to fill out to send back to me.
Any last minute closing thoughts, Mark?
John, I just wanted to just say that, accessibility for me is more about the artistic excellence that we're trying to achieve, and it's also about trust, and it's about really trying to uh, build audiences and be inclusive of everyone. And I think I just wanted to just leave it there for me.
Right. Thank you. Ben.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we've had so much like broad philosophical conversation here. And I would be happy to, as Kayla said, build relationships with you all to keep the conversations
Mhm.
going and specifically to have then the concrete conversations about like, what do we do with this? I know, John, you've been like, and like steering us towards like, how does audio description and ASL and captioning work? So like we didn't really get to have those conversations here, and I'll drop my contact information in the chat if anyone wants
Great.
to
And we
continue those
can
conversations with me.
piggyback on this conversation, and maybe it's not currently in the schedule. Doesn't mean that we can't add kind of a part two to this if you'd like to, because it was really I think, a really great conversation, and we kind of scratched, we could be here all day, I think. So, Kayla, last thoughts from you?
This is Kayla. Mm, yeah, we must stay in relationship, and that before we act on anything, we need to look at ourselves
Mm,
in thought.
thank you. Well, please thank Kayla, Ben, and Mark. Thank you so much for leading this really great conversation. And thanking all of you for taking your time today to join us for today's roundtable. It will be, of course, archived so that you can refer back to it. Also, it's there for colleagues that were not able to join us today. And Kat and I will take a look at the schedule and see about maybe having a part two of this, maybe sometime in the spring, to continue some of the great conversations that we got started here today. And any last minute questions before we say goodbye? Anyone? No? All right. Well, thank you all so much again for your amazing participation in this really worthwhile conversation. More to come.
Yeah,
And
just
yes,
wanted, somebody asked about, let me see, Ben Levine. He asked about music description for deaf and hard of hearing, captions and everything. Please contact me. I have tons of information and perspectives that you would be interested in knowing. So I'd like to
great.
pursue that.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much, Arlene.
Arlene.
Welcome.
Wonderful. Well, again, thanks everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. And again, a happy new year to everyone. And we'll continue this conversation sometime in the spring. Some more to come. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.